Hi Year 9s, hope you're keeping well. Today we're going to continue with our algebra and we're going to look at factorizing. Factorizing is actually the opposite of expanding, so you've not really been doing it this week, but you've been seeing all the answers to all of your questions today, earlier in this week when you've been doing your expanding. So as per usual, here is your starter, which is your 10 questions to get started with. You can do those anywhere that you've got a piece of paper to write on. All right, go ahead and get started. Pause the video now, come back for the answers. All right, and here are your answers. Let me know if you think I've made any mistakes. Remember, I do that often. Question 4, you do need to have all 6 of those numbers in order to get that one correct. Question 5, it is a negative 20, because the negative times the negative makes a positive. For question 8, if you manage to do that one, I would accept 13 out of 12 or 1 and 1/12. And that is about it. All right, let's get started on our factorizing. All right, when we factorize, what we're looking to do is we're looking to put the brackets back into the question, and we need to factorize by taking out the biggest factor. So just like we did in the starter when we listed the factors of 20, we need to think about what are the factors of 6 and 8. What are the factors that they have in common? Well, the first thing that I noticed about 6 and 8 is that they're both even numbers. So I know that they both have the number 2 in common. So I can take a 2 out of both of them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide out 2 from both of them. So I write 2 and then I write my bracket. And I ask myself, what is 6x divided by 2? And that gives me 3x. And then I also ask myself, what is positive 8 divided by 2? And that gives me positive 4. Now, the reason why I'm dividing is because dividing and multiplying are opposites. And when we expand the brackets, we have to multiply. So to put the brackets back in, we have to divide. Now, we could check. You don't actually have to do this step. I'm going to do it in a different color. But I could expand this answer that I just got, this answer of 2 bracket 3x plus 4, to see if it's the same. So if I expand this to check, so expand to check, I get 2 times by 3x, which is 6x, which is exactly what it says over here, and 2 times by 4, which is 8, which is exactly what it says over here. Okay, the only bit that I actually want to write down is the blue part, and that is my answer. The red bit that I just did was to check. All right, so that's how we expand. We look for that's how we factorize. We look for a common factor, typically the highest common factor, and factor that out. All right, let's think about 12y minus 3. So first we have to ask ourselves, what do 12 and 3 have in common? They're not both even, so we can't use the number 2. 1 is not going to be very helpful right now. What about the number 3? Does 12 go into 12? Does 3 go into 12? It does, and it also goes into 3. So I'm going to factor out a 3. And then I'm going to start by asking myself the question, what is 12y divided by 3? And the answer to that is 4y. And then I'm also going to ask myself, what is minus 3 divided by 3? And that gives me negative 1. And then there we go. There's our answer. Okay, there's another way that you could also do this question. So once you found out your factor, so once I decided that 3 was my factor, I could say what times by 3 gives me 12y. And I know that 3 times by 4 makes 12, so I could do it that way. And then what times by 3 gives me minus 3, and that way I would get the minus 1. Okay, so you can do it by dividing or multiplying. As you can see, both those answers are exactly the same. All right, let's try one last question. This one, the letter is in the second term, not in the first term, but it doesn't make any difference. So 2 and 16, those are both even numbers. So the number that they have in common is 2. And then I'm going to ask myself, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then I'm going to ask myself, 16m divided by 2 is 8m. And then there we go. That's it. The question's done. In most of the questions for today, you don't have to show any working out. We just need a question and an answer. All right, let's try some more complicated ones. All right, so this time we've got extra letters, but it shouldn't be that much different. So we have to look at AB and 4B. and hopefully you can see with your eyes what they have in common. And the thing they have in common is the letter B. So we can take out the letter B, and then this time I'm going to ask myself, what times by B gives me AB? Well, we've already used this B, so the only thing that's left is A. And then I'm going to ask myself over here for the second part, what times by B gives me plus 4B? Well, we've already used this B, so that's going to give us plus 4. There you go. Now, if you wanted to, you could expand and check, but we don't have to. In this next one, we've got x squared plus 3x. Now, x squared is the same as having x times by x again. And then we've got this 3x over here. So what do those two things have in common? Hopefully you can see that they both have x in common. So the common factor to take out is x. Now, if we take out x from x times by x, or x squared, if we take that x out, we're just left with 1x. And similarly, if we just take out the x from the 3x, we're just left with plus 3. Okay, let's see if we can try 9m squared minus m. So those both have the letter m in common. And then I can ask myself, what times by m gives me 9m squared? Well, I definitely need a 9. And then what is m times by what gives me m squared? And that's going to give me m again. All right, and then for the last bit, I'm going to ask myself, what times by m gives me minus m? And that's going to be minus 1. All right, I think we've got one other example where we have to take out a letter and a number. So on all of these, the first thing that we took out was a letter. And on the last set of questions, everything that we took out was a number. In the next set of questions, everything's going to be a number and a letter. All right, so we start by figuring out, what do 15 and 3 have in common? And they have 3 in common. And what do x, y, and x have in common? They both have an x. And then we ask ourselves, what times by 3 gives us 15? And that's going to be 5. And what times by x gives us xy? That's going to be y. Same for the next part. What times by 3x gives us 3x? Well, that's just going to be 1, because anything times by itself. 1 times by, oh no, that was not right. Just ignore me on that one. 3x times by 1 gives me 3x. All right, for the next one, we've got 24x squared minus 14x. So we first have to think about, what do 14 and 24 have in common? They're both even numbers. Do they both go, does 4 go into both of them? 4, 8, 12, 16. No, that one doesn't work. 7, 14. That's good. 21, 28. Okay, that's not going to work. I think we can just take out 2. So 2 is common to both of them. Also, the letter x is common to both of them. So then we go ahead and ask ourselves, what times by 2 gives us 24? And that's 12. And what times by x gives us x squared? And that's just x. And then same thing for the next part. What times by 2 gives us minus 14? And that's minus 7. And what times by x gives us x? Well, we don't have to write anything because it would just be 1. And there we go. That question's finished. All right, and the last one for today, we've got 30 ABC plus 20 AB. So let's start by asking ourselves, what do 30 and 20 have in common? And they have 10 in common. And what do ABC and AB have in common? They've just got AB in common. So we can actually take out 10AB. And then we ask ourselves, what times by 10AB gives us 30 ABC? Well, we definitely need a 3 because 3 times 10 is 30. And we've already used the A and the B, so we must be left with C. And then for the second part, we ask ourselves, what times by 10 makes 20? And that would be 2. And we've already taken out the A and B, so there must be nothing left. And then we can close the bracket. All right, those ones are fairly tricky, I have to be honest. So that is it for factorizing expressions today. So you can go ahead and have a go at those. Some of them are going to be easier and some of them are going to be more difficult. If you can only manage to do the easy ones, I would still be absolutely thrilled. This last example, example 3, has definitely been a tricky example. All right, you go ahead and get started and then let me know if you have any questions. Bye.